With that in mind, there is a suggested motion printed on the agenda papers which has been put forward by the Head of Paid Services in the form of an officer recommendation. Councillor Harvey, as leader of the council, do you wish to adopt the officer recommendation?
No, Mr. Mayor, which is, usual in this authority stuff. But I think the officer recommendation was merely to get something on the agenda around which we could debate, and it basically is to reaffirm our commitment to the LET area and the Shadow Economic Prosperity Board area, which we are already part of. So I think I just want to move the following motions today. That Nuneaton and Bedford Borough Council continue to support the City Deal, monitor the development of combined authorities, and seek to join the best option for the residents of the borough when appropriate. Can I speak to that motion? Mr. Mayor, in proposing that, I feel that certainly we on the Labour side feel it's pointless to rush into decisions before we know the full facts. And therefore, that motion leaves our options open in relation to what's best for Nuneaton and Bedworth. I hope I speak for all of us when I say that it's Nuneaton and Bedworth that matter to us, and it's Nuneaton and Bedworth that matter to the people out there. We can actually always talk about travel to work areas, and who we're next to and who we're not next to, and what this figure shows and that figure shows and the other figure shows. But people expect us as elected members for these two towns, Nuneaton and Bedworth, to do our best for the people here. I think what has become clear tonight, against some hysterical comments I've read in certain parts of the media, is that this is no threat to Nuneaton and Bedworth. We are not talking about the possible abolition of Nuneaton and Bedworth. And if we look back at when previous governments have talked about local government reorganisation, and surveys were done about allegiance to whichever area, Nuneaton and Bedworth came out as the strongest allegiance in the whole county. The allegiance to this borough and to that area was the strongest. We far outstripped allegiance to Warwickshire, allegiance to particular areas, allegiance to their areas, the allegiance of local peoples to Nuneaton and Bedworth. Similarly, there are people, of course, around Nuneaton and Bedworth who consider themselves attached to Nuneaton and Bedworth. And dare I say, without upsetting North Warwickshire, there are people in North Warwickshire who would see themselves very strongly attached to this area, as their main towns. So we want to do the best for the economic development of this total area. Combined authorities are a fact of life. They're not something we can behave like King Canute about and say, well, no further, we're not having them, we'll go our own sweet way and will not be involved in any way. Because that would be extremely foolish, and it would mean that economic development bypassed us. Look at the figures that are being given to us today in terms of those areas that have decided to work together. Now, we've always worked together, Mr. Mayor. We work, despite political differences, we work very good in the Shadow Economic Prosperity Board. I think it's true to say that only two of us are from the Labour Party on that board. The rest, I can't remember the exact number, but something like 9, is it? Are Conservatives. The actual political allegiances, and those meetings are open to the public, are not relevant to that. It's about the prosperity of this area and the best for our people, and we've always decided to work together. So in proposing this motion, Mr. Mayor, we're saying, let's not get into the hysterics about which town we like, which town we don't like, etc. The reason I did ask Mr. Mayor about, is it true that under a combined authority, there is one vote per authority? In actual fact, on the present basis, on the Economic Prosperity Board, that is to our great advantage, because Coventry is 3 times the size of Nuneaton and Bedworth, and yet only has 1 vote. So my vote equals the same vote as the leader of Coventry, if ever we do come to voting. And my vote equals the leader of Warwickshire, which is 500,000, I think, in total. So That is to our great advantage, and it's to our great advantage to be included, Mr Mayor, not to be excluded. There is no threat here to Nuneaton and Bedworth. I've been a councillor on this authority since the very beginning, when Councillor Haynes was first leader of Nuneaton and Bedworth as such. My loyalty to Nuneaton and Bedworth, I would hope, is clearly on record. There's no threat to this authority. There's no threat to these towns. In fact, this presents us with a new opportunity, Mr Mayor, a new opportunity to see our borough move forward. And that's what we should be doing. And I hope that the resolution I put forward will receive unanimous backing.
Second.
Mr Mayor, I would like to second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Are there any amendments?
Mr Mayor, before I move an amendment, if I so wish, because we were labouring under the apprehension that the motion on the paperwork was what's going to be moved tonight, may I ask for a copy of the new proposed motion to be circulated to all members so that we can actually see what we are debating?
Somebody's got a copy.
Could you give one to the leader of the alternative group formed for
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move an amendment so that Councillor Harvey's motion stands as point 1 and then insert afterwards at point 2. With the above in mind, this authority believes that the participation of Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council in a Greater Birmingham combined authority would be detrimental to the interests of the residents of this borough. Therefore, Nuneaton and Bedworth Borough Council will not enter into negotiations with Birmingham City Council to create a combined authority. In moving the amendment, Mr Mayor, events have to an extent rather overtaken us. Last night we had the news that Councillor Lucas in Coventry has decided that she will move in that direction, and late last night I believe the leader of Solihull indicated that he will be recommending to Council in July over there that they pursue the Greater Birmingham option. One of the slides which we saw up there was that we must consider the like for like which we are going for, whether we have anything in common with the very other authorities we are seeking to cooperate with. If I look at the proposed constituent authorities of the Greater Birmingham option, I cannot see how in any way, shape or form Nuneaton and Bedworth has anything in common with Wolverhampton, with Walsall, with Dudley. And I do think that in any negotiation we should have red lines, and this for me and my party and a great many number of residents out there, if you just read the comments which are being made online and on the radio, believe that that is a red line. If you add up the numbers of all of Warwickshire, plus all of the proposed constituent authorities for the Greater Birmingham Authority, it would come to 3.7 million people. That's according to the 2011 census. If you equate that to our proportion, that is 3%. We would make up 3% of that authority. I understand Councillor Harvey's argument that he would have one vote equal to the others, but I disagree with that argument. For one fundamental reason, that other leaders in that authority would feel morally obligated to ensure that resources go to the greater population, not necessarily the greater development needs, but to the people that they represent, just as I would expect Councillor Harvey or any subsequent leader to fight for the interests of the residents. But I don't believe our future lies with Birmingham. If you look at the governance review which was conducted by Sir Bob Kersley, he said that there are some great shortcomings in the Birmingham governance structure. And he said that even though at this time he wasn't going to recommend breaking Birmingham up, He said if it doesn't make improvements, it could be on the table. Birmingham is the largest local authority in Europe, and I don't believe tying ourselves to Birmingham is of any use whatsoever. And so I cannot support any attempt to enter negotiations with Birmingham City Council. There may be other options to the east of Nuneaton and Bedworth, but the residents of this borough deserve to know that we will make a commitment, because there are people who are understandably concerned, and we should say to them loud and proud that we will not join in with Birmingham. The only thing we have in common with Birmingham are the canals and the M6, and that's where our links begin and end. And we have no cultural ties with them whatsoever anymore. We have diverged too much over the past century. By all means explore other options, but not Birmingham. Birmingham is too big and would be doing a deal with the devil, Mr. Mayor. And so I move the amendment.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. My point of order is this, Mr. Mayor. It seems to me that the amendment virtually goes against the spirit of the actual motion. Now, as I understand it, that's not possible. It's not an amendment, it's against, because the motion talks about being open to all negotiations, to all thinking.
My name is...
Well, that's
Just a minute, okay, I'll take your point, I'll take some advice.
If we get a copy of the rules, we will have a quick look at the rules, because it's too
I was thinking along the same lines myself, because she said A and B, and I thought, well, it can't be an addendum because it's a negative. It has to be its own proposition, its own right.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the wording, and bear in mind that we've only just seen the wording from Councillor Harvey, it quotes best option for the residents. In our view, the best option isn't going with Birmingham.
Sorry about this, but I better not make the decision, otherwise I would be wrong. Whilst that's going on, is there a second for the amendment? I thought there might be.
Please, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, can I reserve my right to speak?
Right. I'm going to have to rule the amendment out of order because it is seeking to take out one of the options where the substantive motion is saying to join the best option. That could be anywhere, but you are seeking to take out an option which may be or may not be considered in the future. So I'll have to rule your amendment out of order. I'm sorry about that, but it's the way it's worded.
Am I still allowed to come back into main debate?
Right. Members?
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question on a point of order here?
Yeah.
To me, all we're doing is inviting the council to, when they're talking about best options, say, and for the avoidance of doubt, that doesn't include this particular option. It doesn't say anything more than that. It's just saying this is one option that we don't consider the best. So I guess by implication, if that's not supported, people are saying Birmingham might well be the best option, and that seems to be what I'm hearing from the Labour side.
You can't explore options if you're ruling an option out.
But it doesn't say all options, it just says best options, and we're inviting the council to
It's a bit pedantic. I made a ruling so that the amendment is out of order. Anybody else? Back to the main debate, back to the debate on the substantive motion. Anybody? Want to come back?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Had we had sight of the motion, I'm well aware of the rules of the Constitution that we aren't allowed to move or shouldn't move amendments to negate, and it's a matter of interpretation. I accept that. However, that is not in the spirit of democracy in allowing us to debate properly with all options on the table. And Councillor Harvey extols the virtue of his many years on this council. Perhaps he needs to learn another lesson in that respect about, well, he's meant to be a great teacher, but obviously he hasn't learned his own lessons, because in democracy we should be able to see the motion on the table, and that has not been complied with. If he knew full well that he was not going to be supporting the officer recommendation, it was well within his purview to put a notice of motion which was going to be moved. And he has not only meant that us as opposition members cannot consider amendments which would be legally correct, but also members of the public who have made the effort to come here tonight have come here labouring under misapprehensions as to what the motion is going to be. That isn't democracy, Mr. Mayor. Because of the wording, and I genuinely don't believe that allowing Birmingham to be an option is in the interest of the residents that we serve. It is a red line for me. I will not be supporting the motion as Councillor Harvey has moved, and I would like, depending on who will rise with me, to call for a recorded vote on this. That is how strongly I feel about this issue. Because not only has democracy and the rules of debate been denied tonight by the very actions of this council, but we are also not being fair to our residents either.
Councillor Lloyd? Councillor, you indicated. You indicated. You indicated.
I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, well, now we hear it, don't we? I mean, at the end of the day, Councillor Wilson, at the end of the day, you had the same opportunity as everybody else to put a motion to this full council. Every opportunity. You could have done exactly the same. Just because you've come without any motion and any discussion and any thought about it to add to this debate, don't try and tar Councillor Dennis Harvey or anybody else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To tar anybody else. At the end of the day, all options are on the table. All options, no matter what they are. Because at the end of the day, we need to look at all options for whatever is the best for the people that live in Nuneaton and Bedworth. I mean, come on. You say we've got no links with Birmingham. Or we have. We both work there. You and me. And I ain't being funny. Economically, you say we've got no links with Birmingham. Half of Bayton Road and beyond supply components for a factory in Birmingham where I work. So there is links with Birmingham. There's also links with North Warwickshire, as we've heard today. There's also links with Coventry, as we've heard today. We need to explore economically all these links for the best of the people of Nuneaton and Bedworth. Not just keep it down to one or two options. All options do need to be explored. And that's the process that the Labour Party, on this side of the House, want to go through for the best possible reason for the people of Nuneaton and Bedworth. You want to throw that out? Not even a glance or a look at or any further discussion. That's not democracy, Councillor Wilson.
Councillor Wilson, your point of personal explanation.
I believe there are at least two in that one, Mr. Mayor. With regards to Birmingham, yes, I work in Birmingham. Doesn't mean to say that Nuneaton and Bedworth has anything in common with Birmingham, apart from the fact that I happen to work there. Culturally, historically, everything else, they are not alike, and no one would be able to claim that they are. Secondly, with regards to preparation, I believe that the senior officers have actually seen the prepared motions that we're going to move as an amendment. So I haven't come into this half-heartedly, Councillor. I had prepared an amendment to the motion which was printed on the order paper. Now, if you'd have stuck to that, then it would have been fine. If there had been an indication on the order paper that it was the opposite.
Yeah, you're going back into debate now.
I'm explaining that I was actually prepared for tonight's meeting, Mr. Mayor. And also, Mr. Mayor,
This is the last point of personal opinion.
if we had been allowed to have, if the amendment had been legally correct, we would have been able to vote on that and let the council decide.
Okay, thank you.
That would be democratic.
Councillor Tromans, did you indicate or did you just jump? Okay. Councillor Glass.
Thanks, Chair. Can I have a point of clarification? The councillor called for a recorded vote. I never seen the recorded vote motion being taken.
I haven't done it yet. We'll do it when we get to the vote. Anybody else? Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll have 2 pence worth. I have to agree with Councillor Lloyd and Councillor Harvey, not just because they're on our side, but also the fact that the people and residents of Nuneaton and Bedworth need time to know what Coventry are going to decide, and maybe what North Warwickshire are going to decide, and other districts in Warwickshire are going to decide. We need more details on what actually the combined authority will be taking on. We know Coventry have got close ties with Birmingham through the transport links. Coventry, I mean, other areas of Warwickshire, as was pointed out to us, don't. So which way? Will Coventry actually look at their transport arrangements and sort of say, oh yeah, we won't have transport anymore with Birmingham, we will have it with the rest of Warwickshire? Is Coventry and Warwickshire on its own big enough without going elsewhere? I personally don't think it is. There's nothing wrong with having 4 million people, businesses, all working under an area. They already do that, but it's your party that actually want this to happen. You know, personally, I think combined areas possibly could be ending up for a 4. You know, because the government will actually wash their hands. They'll say, here's your money, here's your responsibility, get on with it. And when things don't work, right, they'll say, well, it's got nothing to do with us. When combined authorities need more money, because economic prosperity maybe hasn't taken off, it's just a political win. But believe me, this side of the House will look at all the options for the best of Nuneaton and Bedworth before discarding anything.
Well, there's nobody else. Councillor Harvey wants to reply. No, nobody was indicated before I called out Councillor Harvey's right to reply.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, you stopped me speaking again.
Sorry?
Mr. Mayor, you stopped me speaking again.
You should have indicated. I've been looking around this room waiting for people to indicate. I'm not a mind reader, Councillor Condicore. You know what the rules are. If you want to speak, put your hand up and I'll put you on the list. You didn't indicate until I called Councillor Harvey as the right to reply. And it's the same on one of our members over here. So he's not going to get a chance either. Councillor Jackson, you reserved your right to speak. You've waived it. Thank you. Councillor Harvey, the right to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I feel it's very sad that it's descended into personal attacks from the opposition with...
You got that on the camera?
Sorry,
you can understand why they want to get that and vote.
Carry on. Mr. Mayor, I have tried in the years I've been on the council never to attack personally another councillor, and I hope I've managed to stick to that. And in our group we encourage people not to do that either. This week we've seen a torrent of personal abuse about various cabinet members or myself now from the opposition, and that is not the way to discuss the future of Nuneaton and Bedworth and its economic prosperity. The motion I put forward left all options open, and I very strongly believe, as the Labour group do, that we shouldn't rule anything out, Mr. Mayor. Because having worked with the shadow, these names that come up with are impossible, Mr. Mayor. The Shadow Economic Prosperity Board, over a period of time, We've then also, and have a right to be on that, so I've got to vote. We've also got the Local Enterprise Partnership, which was brought in by the Conservative government to replace the West Midlands area office, basically, of the government, and which is, it has to have a majority of businesses on it. But during the years of its existence, Mr. Mayor, there has been a gerrymandering, nothing short of that, by the districts of the south of Warwickshire to keep us off. First of all, we agreed democratically, the 5 districts, the county have so many reps on. Councillor Tandy is one of them. The districts had 1 representative, and we agreed Councillor Humphrey from Rugby for the district, for all the districts, a Conservative. And we had the Shadow Health and Wellbeing Board, and we had Councillor Phillips for all the districts. Until the leader of Warwick started jumping up and down because he wasn't on it. So they gave Warwick another seat on it. Councillor Humphrey then got appointed to an important position as an officer, and it was unwritten amongst us that the north of the county would get one of those 2 seats. What did they do? They had a nice little meeting between them and voted another of them in and kept us out. So it's all very well saying we can only work with these people, we can only work with these people, and these people want... The people we've been trying to work with do make sure we don't get a look in. There is nobody on the left from the north of the county except Councillor Tandy. I think there's not even a business. Maybe one, just outside in Leicestershire. So, Mr. Mayor, let's not say we rule in this area, we rule out that area, this area won't be any good, that area won't be any good. On the experience of the Shadow Economic Prosperity Board, sorry to bamboozle people with all these names, but I get 1 vote, and that 1 vote is equal to the leader of Coventry, the leader of Hinckley and Bosworth, the leader of Warwickshire, everywhere else. And on the present setup, that will be the same in combined authorities. And that seems to me, Mr. Mayor, that is the way forward for Nuneaton and Bedworth, whichever way we could go. But don't rule areas out. However, I will, Mr. Mayor, say, I didn't put this in the motion, but to the idea that we could possibly go in with High Wycombe, South Bucks, the Forest of Dean is actually beyond belief. Because you might find people who work in Birmingham or people who work in Rugby. You won't find anybody in here who works in the Forest of Dean or High Wycombe. So, you know, some of these maps are absolutely ludicrous, Mr. Mayor. Let's leave our options open, see where we're going, and we can't ignore Coventry. To get to Shire Hall, you've got to go through Coventry, or take a very, very long way around to avoid it, Mr. Mayor. Coventry, Nuneaton and Bedworth have been historically linked for many, many years, and to suddenly say we want nothing to do with Coventry is absolutely ludicrous in the interests of our residents.
Thank you. Do you still want your 40 vote? That's it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I will read out the names of each member in alphabetical order who will indicate if they are for or against the motion. Councillor Albinton, apologies. Councillor Beaumont.
For.
Councillor Bennett.
For.
Councillor Bonner. For. Councillor Copland.
For.
Councillor Doherty, apologies. Councillor Doughty.
For.
Councillor Elliott.
For.
Councillor Foster, apologies. Councillor Fowler.
For.
Councillor Glass.
For.
Councillor Grant is not here. Councillor Hancocks. For, apologies, sorry. Councillor Harvey.
For.
Councillor Hawkes.
For.
Councillor Haynes.
For.
Councillor Hickling. For. Councillor Jackson.
For.
Councillor Kondaka.
Yeah, that's you.
Yes, recorded vote.
What are you doing?
I've not been allowed to speak so far.
All right, well, don't speak.
Councillor Tony Lloyd. Councillor Ian Lloyd.
For.
Councillor London.
For.
Councillor Margrave.
For.
Councillor Navarro. Apologies. Councillor Caroline Phillips. Apologies. Councillor Neil Phillips. For. Councillor Pomfret.
For.
Councillor Jill Shepherd. Councillor Tracy Shepherd.
For.
Councillor Tandy.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
Councillor Trones?
Against.
Councillor Watkins? Or Councillor Wilson?
Against.
That motion is carried. Are you abstaining from that, or are you just not bothering? Just not bothering. Okay, fine. I declare that motion is carried. That concludes the events of the meeting tonight. Can I thank you for your attendance and have a safe journey.